What's going on, believers? Saitama is starting to get a little bit of a pump going on right now. We don't know where it extends from. It just looks like it hit a bottom and started to cascade towards the upside. We'll see if that holds right now. But guys, like, comment, subscribe. Everything that you do helps me, and I would like to be helped because I would like to continue to provide you with the best crypto information that there is. Also, you can check me out. I did a lot of stuff over the weekend with the sandstorm as we talked through and went through the crap show that was Lily Finance's launch and what's going on with Saitama. And if you have not heard yet, Tuesday, Russell Armand himself will be on the sandstorm. So go and check that out. It's not financial advice. I'm always right. And Russ said I couldn't be on the show.
I can't wait till Friday. Everybody's getting sideways.
All right, guys, make sure you follow me on Instagram. That's down below. It'll be the thumbnails for each one of the shows every single day. So Saitama is trading at 1939 right now. That's a cascade up of a couple hundred points that happened a little bit out of nowhere. And if you start to look around and you poke for answers, which is what I did, then you will find that when Lily Finance moved over to Uniswap from Saitama, there were a lot of people who said that there's absolutely no way they'll ever buy into Lily, etc., etc., etc. And then Lily had one of the most colossal failed launches that you have ever seen, where people were getting wrecked. And there's some reports out there. I know an individual that bought $768 in Lily Finance, should have gotten something like 15 trillion tokens, ended up getting 150 billion. I know another person who was supposed to get, I think it was in the neighborhood of 40 trillion off of their ppurchase, or 4 trillion. Maybe I got the numbers a little bit wrong, but 4 trillion maybe, and they got 400 billion instead. And even though Lily has now recovered an enormous amount of the loss that had occurred at that point, it has still wrecked just a ton of people. And that's a short-term thing. When I say wrecked, anybody who was in is in a loss. But Friday night, when we were looking to call it dead, I decided to say, I don't think that it's dead yet. It's probably got some more upside to it. And guess what? It has continued to have a little bit of upside. So there is a tiny bit of life in Lily Finance. It is up to, I think, 7,000 hodlers now. And, it ended up being not great, but an 8x. If you got past that original horrible launch, if you got past that, then you are potentially up 7 to 10x right now. What that did was it caused, and you don't need me for it, you can actually go to the Saitama chain and you can start going through some of these wallets that were selling last night and the night before, and you will see that they were selling. And a few minutes later, they were buying into Lily. Lily seems to have a pretty big tax in their pairing, so there's a lot of movement going around. But as I started checking through some of these bigger wallets, that's exactly what you saw. You saw them moving back over. Now, it's important to point out that when you look over here at Lily, then you see that, and it's difficult to pay attention to it because it's got this huge candle, but it now is trading sideways for a period of time. And that seems to be the point that the ADD sets in on the Chad boys, and they start moving their money around. So where did it go? Came back home to Saitama. Now we are trending towards that upside as it trades sideways. So that's where the money went. They were on Twitter telling you that they would never do it, and here they are doing it. Moving on. Okay, guys, let's get a summary of what happened over the weekend so that we can move on from it, because I have tried to not make as many comments about it, except a little bit of joking from different aspects. One, I don't think that Saitama has anything to do with the Lily Finance. I know that Russ set up the company for them, but after that, he was no longer involved. He was going to be involved for the transaction of money. And that seems to be it. And I don't have any reason to doubt that that's what it was. But Lily Finance launched, and there was a massive sell-off because when Lily was deploying the contract, they thought that they were deploying the contract at a specific time, and it was not deploying right away, so they went to reschedule it, but it had already deployed, is the way I understood it from, I think the gentleman's name in the AMA was Barney, where he said that he had switched tabs and he was deploying the contract and it did not deploy right away. He thought there was a problem with Uniswap. He switched over to add liquidity. He was ready to add the liquidity and he swapped back over, and he saw at that point, after it was too late, that the contract was now live. So the question became, why did it take you, if that was the case, over 30 minutes to let anybody know what was going on? And he didn't really have an answer for that. But I don't think that any answer would have sufficed. So I just want to say that I don't believe that there was, it doesn't look like there was malicious intent. And when I say that, what I mean is I don't think that he or anybody was intending to deceive everybody. But I do think that what they did was they launched the contract just a little bit early, and they thought that they were going to be helping their buddies out, and they would let their friends get in, because over 500 people launched that contract before it was ready to go. So there were 500 people inside that had invested, that let that price run up when it opened up to the public, and they cashed out, and they made a lot of money and wrecked a lot of people in the process. Now, as we stepped outwards and we started to look at it, questions started to come up about Del Crypto, who then went into an AMA, and he's been in, I think, 4 AMAs at this point, and each one of them he had a slightly different variation of the story, including that he had no idea what was going on because his cell phone was off, which was then debunked by Brad Beatty, who then said that he talked to Del Crypto that night on the phone, and Del then said, well, yeah, I had my, I had text on, and yes, I took a call from Brad, after saying he did not. So there's questions here. Brad himself, he doesn't appear to be as aware as you would think about what was going on. It's not to say that he's not, it just seems like he had, first, a lot of arguing to do, and then after he did his arguing, then he had a lot of explaining to do, and he didn't have satisfactory answers up and down the board. But he did take his lumps. He did go sit in these chats. He did allow these people to go at him. So you should be, if you're worried, you should be happy that he went out there and took the lumps, even if you didn't like the answers. Then you take that to a step forward, and then we start to hear that there were 6 YouTubers, including Del Crypto, that were involved in this whole process, and that Scott Herman and his website were evaluating with TARP, which I will say for the record, I don't know who TARP is. I know what they represent. I don't know that they represent anything positive. I know that they just started talking smack about Saitama a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So the people who don't like Saitama jumped on that bandwagon. I don't know if there's a bandwagon. I don't know if it's worthy of having a bandwagon, but that's how it played out. So apparently on that website that they found the transaction code. So they were not intentionally leaking it, but they were doing due diligence and they were checking out the contract, which they should have been able to do because it's not released yet, and they were checking it to make sure it was valid. They didn't like what they saw in the contract, but the contract address was already out there, and it was opened up, not by them, and people just started to invest because they were watching, they were looking for an inside, and that's how it ended up happening. Then you have another situation in which someone disguised themselves as Rose with a deployment address in their name. And I believe the name of the person was Rose. This is the deployment contract address. And they sent it into the Lily Finance chat and didn't say anything other than that. And that was enough for some people to invest into a scam token, a honeypot, and they got wrecked. In one case, a young lady contacted me and she was out almost $40,000. And I saw the transaction codes. And then I went investigating and I saw inside that chat that that's what happened. And, you know, when you're trying to take advantage of a situation, you got to be very careful. This is crypto. There's a lot of shady people out there, as we saw. So that leads us back around to the crypto YouTubers. Crypto YouTubers, a list came out. That list included a lot of allegations of names. I don't know if any of the names are valid, involved, or have done anything, because what I think about the rumors of the YouTubers involved is very simple. Until there's evidence, there is no proof of anything, and do your own research. If you have questions about it, then the answer is this. If you don't like the way they addressed it, then the answer is this. If you have problems with it up to this point, then here's your answer. Just unsubscribe. If you don't like what they told you, or if they didn't tell you anything and they've been named in these rumors and they're not responding to it, some of us, we don't respond to rumors because we don't even know about them. Or for any reason, we might not be involved and don't think that we have to. So when you unsubscribe or when you stop watching and the views start to go down, then people understand what's going on. They understand that there's a problem. They will address that problem, and then hopefully you resubscribe and we move on from it. But you have a voice. You just have to use your voice. If you don't like my content, unsubscribe. If you like my content, subscribe. If you really like my content, subscribe, get yourself a membership, and then share it with everybody you know so that the same thing happens for a bunch more people, because that's how I get paid. You'll notice I don't do a lot of live streaming. You'll notice that I try to limit my involvement to some coverage with the daily update. There are new shows that I would like to do that I am not prepared to do yet. There are partnerships that I might be getting into very soon. So we'll see where the wind blows. But I want you to remember, Saitama, I tell you the things you need to know, not the things you want to know. I'm not in that list of people that pump constantly. You know who the list is. You know who the people are. And why? It's because I've got your back. I will give you my opinion. I'll be honest with you at all times. I will tell you what I think of Saitama. You can do with it what you want with that information, but it is important to me to be honest with you about what I think, what's going on with Saitama. So you can always guarantee that that's what I will do. This is not financial advice. I'm always right. And go Wolfpack.
I'm looking for the good.